Today we are breaking down one of the feedback sessions that I did in the previous stream about Eggcelerate. We will go into detail on each feedback point and end with some interesting insights into the financial aspects of this game. Welcome to another Game Dev Topics. Eggcelerate is a silly yet very challenging time trial racing game where you try over and over again to improve your time without dropping an egg. And throughout playing this game, I found myself looking for major points of improvement, but in the lack of those, I did start to see all of the things Eggcelerate was doing well. So let's dive into how you can apply some of the techniques that were used in Eggcelerate. As I mentioned in the previous video, which you can check out through a link in the top right of this video, you need to introduce your core loop within the first 5 minutes of your game. And I can gladly say that Eggcelerate managed to do this in roughly 30 seconds. As soon as you hop into the first level, you are automatically confronted with the core loop of driving towards the finish line without dropping your egg. If you do drop your egg, you have to start over. This elegantly simple core loop is a major plus for Eggcelerate, as it can be explained and, more importantly, understood very quickly by anyone that plays the game. So keep this in mind when you are working on your own game. The level design in Eggcelerate is well defined and gradually increases in complexity with each passing level. I never found myself being stuck, not knowing what to do or where to go. Partially, thanks to the short and clear core loop, I found that when I was confronted with new level mechanics, I had plenty of space to fail and learn before I was truly tested near the end of the level. Remember that when people first play your game, you have to gradually introduce new concepts to them as time goes on. This is especially important in terms of level design, where you first want players to learn how to walk before you teach them how they can run and use a grappling hook. Also, loopings. Wow, looping? What? What? Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Now, before we continue, would you also like actionable feedback on your game so that you can fix the issues before publishing a demo to a large audience or just releasing in general? Make sure to head over to www.gamedevtopics.com and choose one of the completely free options on the guidance sessions page to get a guidance session from me either in private or on a Twitch stream. Now, continuing. I did notice that there's one small feedback point for the level design, and that is when I encountered a few pumpkins that were on the road and I thought I could drive over them and smash them. Yet, when I did that, my car bounced in the opposite direction and my egg went flying. As a player, I made the assumption that a heavy car could break through weak pumpkins based on what would most likely happen in real life. So, when you decide to include certain props in the play space, and in this case on the road, make sure that you think of what the expectation of the player might be in terms of interaction. The only major point that I could come up with during the review was the business case of the game itself. And I originally wasn't going to include this point in the video, but after seeing a Reddit post of the developer, I figured it might be good to create a bit of insight. In the Reddit post, the developer questions how people pay their bills when they are a full-time indie game developer. And this is a very valid question and definitely something I'll dive into further in a separate video. But in this particular case, I think it'd be helpful if you take a look at the full picture by doing some quick math. If we use the new boxlighter method, which is a method to roughly determine the number of copies that a game has sold on Steam, we end up with the following numbers. Eggcelerate has 48 reviews, and using the new boxlighter number of 41 copies sold per review, we know that Eggcelerate has sold around 1968 copies. At full price, this would result in a total revenue of 12,969 euros up until now. This is also under the assumption that no discounts were ever used and that no one has refunded the game. On the topic of refunds, this game is particularly sensitive to people refunding the game after about 1 hour of playtime because they've seen most of what the game has to offer. If we take this revenue and first take off Steam's cut of roughly 30%, and then also local taxes, which I'm estimating at a further 35%, but please check with a tax representative in your country, we end up with a total revenue of 5,901 euros. I saw somewhere in the responses on Reddit that this game cost roughly 3 months to make, which means that besides having to pay freelancers, the dev would have a monthly income of 1967 euros, which is less than what most game dev jobs pay when you have a few years of experience like the developer of Eggcelerate. So, to get to the point, the business case for Eggcelerate is not very strong when you take into account the taxes and Steam's cut, the cost of freelancers, and the cost of supporting yourself throughout the development time. Why is that? Well, in the case of Eggcelerate, the core loop is so simple that players will quickly see what the rest of the game has to offer, making it really easy for players to determine whether or not they want to refund the game. With other games that go for a somewhat more complex core loop, with more twists and turns later on in the game, it is easier to get players across the 2-hour mark, after which Steam no longer allows refunds in 99% of the cases. So I believe that the simplicity of Eggcelerate is its biggest asset, because anyone can pick up this game and get good enough very quickly, but at the same time, the simplicity is also a problem because it severely reduces potential playtime, leading users to refund if they perceive €6.59 too much for the 30 minutes in which they will play the majority of the game. So, to round this video off, Eggcelerate is a very good game with a very strong core loop that allows any player to play this game and get good very quickly. However, on the business side of things, it shows that too much simplicity can end up hurting your game in the long run from a financial perspective. Now, after having had this talk, are you thinking to yourself, I would love to talk about more of these kinds of topics? Well, have I got news for you. Join the perfectly new Game Dev Topics Discord server through the link in the description down below. Thank you very much for listening, and as always, like and subscribe if you think I've earned it, and we'll see each other in the next Game Dev Topic.